What's up, gang? Happy Flex Friday to all my viewers out there. So good of you to join me once again for another NBA player props video. I'm CJ Curry, and if you're new to this channel, well, hit the subscribe button. It's free for you to do. You may want to also ring that bell, turn on all notifications so that you're alerted as soon as the new video drops here on the channel. You're not waiting around for it to pop up on your little feed on your YouTube page. And then while you're down there clicking all the buttons, might as well click the like button as well. It's a small gesture for you, but it means a whole lot to me because it gets these videos out to more people, more eyeballs on the channel, helps the channel grow. And so if you're liking what you're seeing in this video and you want to share that with others, hit that like button. Last video, we hit 3 out of 4 picks. Not too shabby, pretty darn good. We're not going to get them all right all the time, but we've been hitting the majority of them here in the last several videos. A lot of 2 out of 3s, 3 out of 4s. So we're looking for that sweep, that next sweep. Maybe we'll get it today on this Flex Friday over on PrizePicks. PrizePicks still doing that promo. If you guys aren't playing on PrizePicks yet, I know many of you are, but make your first deposit, play your first $5. Whether you win or lose, they're going to give you $50 back. Use promo code CJ Curry to take advantage of that deal. There's a link down in the description of today's video. PrizePicks is also adding the ability to make picks on games and teams, pop cultural moments, sports moments. I mean, really cool stuff they're doing over at PrizePicks. No better time than now. But let's get into today's picks. We're going to start things off with Klay Thompson? Yeah, Klay Thompson. I'm looking at the over on his 13.5 points plus rebounds. These are going to be some NBA Cup games, which usually means higher level of intensity, more competitive, less of a blowout risk, or blowouts are less impactful because teams want to kind of run the score up on one another. But anyway, Klay Thompson, he's been coming off the bench for Dallas, and he's been producing off the bench for Dallas. Not too mad at this player prop. His minutes are a little bit shaky, and that's definitely a concern because obviously he has to be out there on the court in order for him to put up stats for us, especially if we're looking to take the over. So let's take a closer look. We've got Outlier pulled up here. If you're not using Outlier yet, you'd like to try it out, 7-day free trial. There's a link down in the description. Use that link and take Outlier for a test drive and see if it helps you with your player prop research. Certainly helps me, especially finding a prop like this one, Klay Thompson over 13.5 points plus rebounds. What I've done here is used some of Outlier's handy dandy filtration tools. Yeah, got filters. So we're looking at games with Klay Thompson playing alongside of the likes of Brandon Williams, Caleb Martin, Cooper Flagg, D'Angelo Russell, Max Christie, Najee Marshall, PJ Washington, pretty much all the guys that will potentially compete for minutes at that wing position, that shooting guard small forward position with Klay Thompson. We're also looking at games where Anthony Davis has sat, Dante Exum, obviously Kyrie Irving, and Ryan Nembhard haven't really played at all or much for Dallas this season. But here's what you're left with, these 4 games. So these are kind of like his true hit rates. Now, this will not include any of the bigs like Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, Dwight Powell. Those guys have kind of been in and out of the mix, in and out of the rotation for Dallas. But of the games that we do have here where Klay's played at least 19 minutes, hopefully he plays at least 19 minutes in a NBA Cup game, but he's produced 14, 15, 22, and 22 points plus rebounds. Now, if you want to, we could strip away all of these filters just by clicking the X. We could take his minutes, dial those down, and then here's what you're left with. But again, this does not account for the players that will be in, the players that will be out. So it's not a true representation of his actual hit rate. So using those filters can kind of help you tweak things, dial things in a little bit better. But I wanted to point this one out because his head-to-heads against the New Orleans Pelicans over the years have been quite good. The last 5 meetings, he's gone over his points plus rebounds prop of 13.5 in 4 out of 5. 80% hit rate and an 18 points plus rebound average against the Pelicans in that span. He's already played New Orleans once this season, put up 15 points plus rebounds against them in that game. That was earlier this month, November the 5th. So hopefully he can return to that type of success against the New Orleans Pelicans. In home games, his averages actually tick up a bit. So his hit rates overall are 47%. Again, that doesn't account for the players being in, players being out. These are just with everybody in, everybody out, whatever. It's not specific. But you can see it goes up to 55% when he plays at home. In fact, his last 4 home games, he's actually gone over his points plus rebounds numbers. 22, 15, 22, and 15 for Klay. So hopefully his shot's dropping. Maybe grabs a couple boards. No, Anthony Davis should help, but do have some of those other bigs back in the rotation now for the Dallas Mavericks. So maybe he's fighting for rebounds. We'll see what happens. But nonetheless, the matchup on paper looks like a good one. New Orleans ranks 25th in points allowed, 19th in rebounds allowed. When you take a look at more of the positional points and rebounds allowed, shooting guards, they give up the most points to shooting guards. They give up the 14th most rebounds to shooting guards. And maybe you fancy Klay Thompson a small forward. If that's the case, well, it's still a great matchup. It's actually green matchup here. 21st in points allowed to small forwards and 28th in rebounds allowed to small forwards. So really good matchup here for Klay Thompson across the board. Let's run him over on the Prop Professor Optimizer and kind of get a look at some of this real-time data here for Klay Thompson. Number of different ways that Klay is kind of trending upwards. In other words, what this tool does is goes out here and scans all these different sports books like FanDuel, DraftKings, Caesars, Fliff, Fanatics Sportsbook, Hard Rock Bet, and many, many more apps and sports books. It strips out the juice or VIG. In other words, like that tax that the sports books charge you. And it gives you the true odds or fair odds of a player prop to hit. Now, in this case, Klay Thompson's got about a 52.3% chance of going over 13.5 points plus rebounds. Again, all props are usually set to a 50-50 line, but in this case, we are seeing a mathematical edge or advantage of about 2.3% on Klay Thompson. So we're going to take advantage of that 2.3%. Do I wish it was like 4 or 5%? Yeah, but PrizePicks generally does a good job of keeping anything with like a 54, 55, 56% or higher chance to hit. They don't stay around on the board too long on PrizePicks. But one thing that is encouraging is that FanDuel, who's usually kind of the leader of the pack, first in line when it comes to bumping player prop lines up or down, well, they've already bumped Klay Thompson up to 14.5 points plus rebounds, which is a good sign. Same thing with Caesars. They've got him at 14.5. Fliff also has him at 14.5. So some of these sports books already moving Klay Thompson up to 14.5. Don't be surprised if PrizePicks follows suit. They're usually kind of late or lagging behind these sports books when it comes to bumping player props, which is why we like PrizePicks and like taking player props on PrizePicks, because we can find value like this one before PrizePicks catches up to the rest of the industry. All right, enough about that. Let's take a look at some projections here for Klay Thompson, starting things off with RotoWire. Now, if you're not using RotoWire, 15% off to you if you use promo code CJ Curry. Of course, there's a special link down in the description to make your life easier, but it works for PrizePicks, Underdog, DraftKings Pick 6, Sleeper, and a whole bunch of different sports books, and it not only covers NBA, it also covers NFL, WNBA, college sports, which include basketball and football, esports, soccer, PGA, NHL, you name it. It's pretty much got all the sports covered. So RotoWire's built out a really fantastic tool here. Now we scroll down and take a look. The way that RotoWire does this for PrizePicks, it looks at a number of different factors. It's going to look at DFS pick'em sites. It's going to look at sports books and see kind of where the lines are set on the competition versus PrizePicks. It's also going to take a look at a proprietary projection that RotoWire produces. So they've got their own projection models, in other words. And it's also going to take into consideration the hit rates for a player prop. So the top way to play Klay Thompson right now is the over on his 13.5 points plus rebounds. Their projection for him is 16.13. That's 2.63 points plus rebounds higher than where he's currently at right now on PrizePicks. So don't be surprised if this one gets the bump treatment before it's all said and done. Moving on to another projection model. We've got one called Line Star, very similar in nature to RotoWire. Lots of different player props, lots of different things that it compares against, but they've got a projection for Klay Thompson's points plus rebounds at 14 PR. So nice projection once again here for Klay. BettingPros is a free site. For those who like free things, check out bettingpros.com. They've got a projection up for Klay Thompson's PR of 17.4, gang. That's a pretty big projection. So across 3 different models, Klay is projecting well. He's got the solid hit rates. He's done well at home. A lot of good things going here for Klay Thompson. So the over on the 13.5 PR is pick number 1 for Klay. Pick number 2, I'm looking at Dante DiVincenzo, point guard for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's going up against the Phoenix Suns at 12.5. Looking to take the over for DiVincenzo. Fell a little short in the last game, just 12 points. There is a piece of pending injury news here for this prop. As you will find with many of the props and many of the teams this early on in this NBA season, there's a lot of injury news that's pending. It sucks. It's a pain in the ass to deal with. All these injuries, not sure who's going to be in, who's going to be out. It affects things quite a bit. So got to kind of work around this injury news, what could happen, what may happen, who might be in, who might not be in. So we're trying to do that with these videos, but it's getting harder and harder as these players get more and more injured. But nonetheless, Dante DiVincenzo over 12.5 points. Let's look at it over on Outlier. Again, utilizing the Outlier filtration system here. Looking at games where Dante's played with the likes of Jaden McDaniels. And again, Jaden may not play. He may sit out. We don't know yet. We're waiting for that news. He didn't play in the last game with a sprained wrist. Maybe he sits out again. We'll just have to wait and see. But you know, we got other key players here like Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, Naz Reid, Rudy Gobert. I mean, we could even add Mike Conley to the mix. So these are going to be games where he's played alongside of all these players. Games where he's played with the players that are expected to be out. Only Terrence Shannon Jr. is the only one that's expected to be out from Minnesota. Here's what you're left with, though. 7 games from this season with all the aforementioned players in. That's a 57% hit rate for Dante DiVincenzo, or 4 out of 7. He's averaging right around 13 points per game. And he's going to be playing on the road in Phoenix on the road this season with those players in and players out. He's got a 67% hit rate, or 2 out of 3. So not too shabby. Done a pretty good job. What we can also do here is just clear out all these little filters and just kind of look at his overall hit rates. Again, this does not factor in certain players being in, being out. Obviously, Anthony Edwards missed some games, so that's going to be a thing. But the hit rates don't really tell you all that, so that's why you have to use some of those player filters. Nonetheless, 60% hit rate, 13.93 points per game average, and then that point per game average shoots up to 15.14 when he plays on the road. So for whatever reason, he scores more on the road, or has at least this season, than he does at home. 71% hit rate, so 5 out of 7 times he has gone over on the road. Now, I also wanted to show you the head-to-heads because against Phoenix, boy's been going off here. 15, 24, and 13 points against the Phoenix Suns. This was all from last season, so make of it what you will. But he did score the basketball pretty well against the Suns in those 3 previous meetings. Now, positionally, Phoenix, they give up the 14th most points allowed to point guards. So it's not a difficult matchup, nor is it a good one or favorable one. It's kind of a middle of the pack, average matchup, we'll call it. Neutral is how Outlier defines it, but not one that I'm shying away from. So I'm okay with it. Neutral matchup, not too shabby. Overall, Phoenix doesn't give up a ton of points, though, just to opposing teams in general. So something to kind of keep an eye on here, but I like this one, and the projections kind of seem to like it too. Speaking of those, let's go check them out. We're going to go over to RotoWire, of course. Leaning more on a lot of Dante DiVincenzo today is RotoWire. Now, this is going to include his points at 12.5. You could even go rebounds, pretty consistent at grabbing at least 4 boards. I considered this one, but he hasn't had great success in rebounding the ball against Phoenix, so I did not go this route. But overall, pretty good job at 4 or more rebounds. So pretty solid for Dante DiVincenzo. The 12.5 points is probably going to be the favorite way for me to play him. And he is projected for 14.65 points. So 2.15 according to RotoWire's projection model. So the RotoWire models like him to go over 12.5 points. Again, he's kind of got this little seesaw action going in his last couple of games where he had, 14 and 20 and then drops down to 11, shoots back up to 14, drops back down to 12. So maybe this is a buy low opportunity at 12.5 points, and he pops back up against a team that he's, historically speaking, gone over 12.5 points against pretty easily and consistently. Let's check out another projection though, and we'll go to Line Star for the next one. Line Star has Dante DiVincenzo's points all the way up at 16.3, so their projection models like him to go over 13.5 points as well. He's actually at 12.5. I don't know why it's saying 13.5, but yeah, take it at 12.5, but even at 13.5, there still may be a reason to take it because he is projected for 16.3. So even if this gets bumped up, let's say from 12.5 to 13, still may be worth taking. Anyway, going over to BettingPros for the third projection on Dante DiVincenzo's points. You notice I check as many projection models as possible because every model is going to yield a slightly different result. No projection models are exactly the same. So the more projection models you have at your fingertips, the more you can kind of get a range of potential outcomes for something like a Dante DiVincenzo point prop. But on this prop projection, he is at 12.9 projected points, so really close to 13, so not too shabby there. We can also check out the Prop Professor and get some live sportsbook data behind this prop. The top way to play DiVincenzo's points as of right now, 51.5% chance for him to go over 12.5 points, so it is the points for the over. FanDuel's got him at 12.5. Some of these other books have him at 13.5. So you're seeing 12.5 to 13.5 on most of these sites. So we'll have to kind of wait and see how the market shapes up once some of these other projection models that are sharp, like Fantasy Labs, like Shot Quality, once those kind of update, we'll get a better idea of where the market will land here on DiVincenzo. But I'd imagine maybe you see him at 13 before it's all said and done on PrizePicks. PrizePicks has a tendency of kind of splitting the difference. When a player prop is at 12.5 on one book, maybe 13.5 on some other books, they'll kind of just split the difference and put him at 13. So I kind of expect that for Dante. All right, this last pick is not the most positive EV play, plus EV play, but this one's kind of more like, hey, he's done a really good job with Christian Braun out. And hey, he's done a really good job against the Houston Rockets in the past, head-to-head. So let's roll the dice and see what Aaron Gordon has to offer when it comes to rebounds and assists. So again, on paper, on the sportsbook odds, it's not going to be the sexiest play. This is kind of more of a projection model slash hit rate slash vibes and feels play, I guess you could call it. Aaron Gordon's missed his last couple of games or last few days. It's been about 3 or 4 days since he's played, so he should be fresh as a daisy. He has been dealing with a hamstring issue, but he's already been ruled in against this marquee matchup with the Houston Rockets, a team, again, that he's had some success against in the past, especially when it comes to the rebounds and assists. So let's take a closer look here at AG. 50% hit rate for the season at 7.5 rebounds plus assists. But again, like I mentioned before, these hit rates don't tell the full story. They don't show that Christian Braun will not play for the Denver Nuggets. Now, when we go and we take out Braun, you can do that with Outlier, which is really cool. You're left with 2 games here. And in those games, Aaron Gordon has produced a very strong and healthy 11 rebounds and assists and 10 rebounds and assists. Now, if you wanted to just go raw rebounds, you could do that because Gordon's only picked up 1 assist and no assists in those 2 games without Christian Braun. But I'll let you decide if that's what you want to do. We're talking about the rebounds and assists for the sake of this video. But something else that I wanted to point out, other than him being 2 for 2 without Braun this season, if we go back to the 2024 season and look at the games played without Christian Braun, well, kind of get the same result here. Gordon really stepped his game up in terms of rebounds and assists, clearing his prop line of 7.5 in both of the games from last season when Christian Braun sat out. So I don't know, maybe there's something. Maybe there's something about this. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's a sheer coincidence. We'll just have to kind of see how he performs against the Rockets. Now, against the Rockets, speaking of, matchup-wise, he has done very well against Houston in the last 2 head-to-head meetings. 12 rebounds and assists, picked up 4 boards and 8 assists in that game. Next game, he had 7 boards and 3 assists, finishing with 10 RA overall. So he's 2 for 2 against Houston in the last 2 head-to-head matchups and meetings. So maybe, just maybe, he can continue that success today. I'm kind of picturing something in my head that goes like this. You got Nikola Jokic, Alperen Şengün. They're battling, they're locking horns. They're pretty much canceling each other out. And then you've got Aaron Gordon just soaring in and collecting all the rebounds off the glass. That's kind of what I'm thinking. You know, let the 2 centers tangle while they're boxing each other out, wrestling and jockeying for position. Aaron Gordon's just going to have a field day on the glass. Now, it could go completely different than that. Obviously, I'm just making this up, but we'll see how things play out. But in terms of the matchup, overall, not a great one against Houston. This isn't a matchup-based play here. They rank first due to the Rockets in rebounds that allowed, meaning they're the stingiest in the NBA in terms of rebounds. They also rank 6th in assists allowed, so they're not giving up a ton of assists either. But things do soften up a little bit for power forwards. They rank 11th in rebounds allowed to power forwards and 15th in assists allowed to power forwards. So more of a neutral matchup if you're a power forward like Aaron Gordon is. And even if you're a small forward, which is generally Julian Strawther, who's been starting at the small forward spot, I believe. But 15th in rebounds allowed and 22nd in assists allowed to small forwards. So whether you deem Gordon a small forward, power forward, you know, that's up to you to decide. But the matchup for the forwards against the Rockets is a little bit better than the overall matchup. So now that we've kind of talked about that one, let's look at some projections for AG. Starting it off here at RotoWire, of course, and Aaron Gordon sitting at a projection of 9.04 rebounds and assists. So very healthy projections here for Aaron Gordon to clear 7.5. Again, these are NBA Cup games. All of the players from all the games that I've discussed are in very competitive games, meaning the spread is only like 2 or 3 points in these games, which means hopefully they go the distance, they play as many minutes as they can handle, and we don't have to worry about running into any blowout issues. But the first projection here has Gordon at slightly over 9 rebounds and assists. Looking at projection number 2, which is going to be Line Star, Aaron Gordon at rebounds and assists is sitting at a more modest number. 7.9 is his projected rebounds and assists. That's very close to the 8 number. Of course, we need 8 or more if we're considering the over here for Aaron Gordon. But yeah, that's a good projection. Solid. Not the best, but solid. And then the last projection is going to be this one, which is BettingPros. BettingPros has Aaron Gordon at a healthy 8.2 rebounds plus assists as well. So they do have him going over, despite what seems like a difficult matchup on paper. But like I said, gang, it's not the sexiest in terms of a plus EV play, but he's had some success without Christian Brown last season, this season, and he's had some success against this Houston Rockets team. So I think there's a chance for Aaron Gordon to find 8 or more rebounds plus assists. But what say you? This is the end of the video. This is where you get your voice heard. You can leave your comments down in the comment section below. Liking these picks, hating these picks, feeling like a 6-7 about these picks. Guys, let me know down in the comment section below how you're feeling about them. I'm here to help you guys out using my platform to try and help you win more player prop bets. But hey, we won't win them all. We've done our best here trying to navigate around this murky injury situation for all these different teams and try to lock in some early value. Let's see how we do, and I'll catch you in the next video real soon. Have a happy weekend, and good luck on all your picks, plays, and parlays. Peace.